Well, good afternoon. This is part of our continuing coverage on how Joe Biden is another shade of Donald Trump. We said this immediately after Joe Biden was elected. Nobody wanted to hear it, nobody believed us, but we were pointing out patterns at that time, such as Joe Biden telling the top African American civil rights leaders, quotes, I'm that white boy, and quotes, if you don't like it, tough. Not the way you talk if you're supposed to be the total opposite of Donald Trump. So we're going to get into a couple facts. This will be a relatively quick show. We're going to show you how the decent USA, Joe Biden, is just like the racist Trump USA. We'll be right back. Well, here we are again. This is a relatively quick show. The point is that, as we've said, Joe Biden is basically Donald Trump. That in California, when Donald Trump was elected, we said many of the policies that he pursued were racist and against California values. Well, Joe Biden's pursuing a lot of the same policies. Now, we're not supporting Democrats, we're not supporting Republicans, but what we are trying to show you is that when you think that American Democrats are going to save California values, what are you talking about? So, Joe Biden is continuing a lot of the Trump era policies. We're going to show you some right now. Some of the most racist, disgusting policies that riled up Californians. And yet, Joe Biden continues those same policies, and Californians don't complain. In fact, here's the key thing there are two Californians, one named Kamala Harris and one named Nancy Pelosi. And they say absolutely nothing to Joe about how he violates California values again and again. Now, I was told that we don't need to secede because we can have California Democrats protect our values at the federal government. If that's true, why is it that Nancy and Kamala can say absolutely nothing about the next four things I'm going to show you? Why is it that Californians at the federal government cannot criticize the federal government when they enact Trump's racist, disgusting policies when Trump's gone? Why is it that the American Democrats can talk about how Trump is bad and wicked and evil and then continue his same policies? And why is it that the American Democrats would continue policies that we would never do here in California? And again, I think the key question for you is why is it that Californians who go to work for the federal government can't criticize the federal government when they enact the same racist Trump policies? Let me show you. It's pretty damning. So right off the bat, we did this update because Joe Biden has agreed to continue Trump's racist border wall. So when Trump announced the border wall, Californians freaked out and they said that was racist and disgusting and white supremacist and an existential threat. Joe Biden is literally going to continue Trump's racist border wall. So that's a fact. That's happening. Border wall is racist, existential threat against Californians. Joe Biden doing the same thing. Donald Trump had kids in cages separated from their families. Concentration camp style conditions. This was regarded as white supremacy and racism at its worst by Californians against Donald Trump. Joe Biden's doing the exact same thing. So, kids in cages, continuing the racist border wall. Joe Biden, Donald Trump, no difference at all. So, that's two of the most racist things ever Californians saw. Joe Biden's literally recreating the same conditions as Donald Trump, and Harris and Pelosi are literally saying nothing about it. So why is it that you as Californians think that the American Democrats will protect your values? Based on what? We're not done though. So there's a thing called a cluster bomb. Now you may know about this because Russia's using this in Ukraine to kill a lot of civilians. But here's an interesting thing. When Barbara Lee from California, that's Barbara Lee from California, when this Californian said, hey, let's not have cluster bombs anymore because they really hurt civilians, the Biden administration quickly stepped in to retract her comments. And the Biden administration quickly stepped in to make sure that there was not going to be a shot at permanently ending the sales of American sales of cluster munitions. So cluster bombs are primarily used to kill civilians. Russia's using it in Ukraine. America's saying what Russia's doing is horribly wrong. A Californian steps forward to stop that, and then Joe Biden shuts that down hard and says, no, we are not stopping selling cluster bombs, and you need to stop talking about how cluster bombs are bad. I remember when Donald Trump would do things that were sort of military-esque, saber rattling with North Korea, stuff like that, and people would freak out and call him a warmonger. Cluster bombs are killing a lot of civilians. Californians stepped in to stop it and was shut down by Joe Biden. By the way, Joe Biden is embracing the W. Bush era standards that destroyed America's reputation and showed America to be a tyrant on the world stage. So W. Bush skirted international standards on cluster bombs and got into the Iraq war that got about 500,000 to 1 million civilians killed by America. And Joe Biden is continuing the exact same policy and criticizing a Californian when they say, let's stop the munitions of these things that kill civilians. And he's continuing a policy from George W. Bush during the Iraq war and in line with the most wicked, nasty, military-esque type stuff Donald Trump would do. Once again, no criticism from Harris or Pelosi. Here you go. Joe Biden also did this recently. Now, nearly 1 year into President Biden's term, his administration continues to implement and expand illegally and deadly Trump administration policies that prevent people from seeking asylum at U.S. ports of entry and along the border and turn them away to grave widespread dangers. So when Donald Trump enacted the policy of stopping people at the border, even though they were seeking asylum, and sending them back into their country where they could figure this out, exposing them to danger, Californians said that that was racist and disgusting and white supremacist and murderous. Joe Biden literally continued the exact same policy for a year. So letting refugees die in other countries instead of coming here, keeping Latin kids trying to come across the border in concentration-style camps, making sure to ban the wall so no more Latinos can come in, and stopping the sale of interception of limiting sales of cluster bombs, which are primarily used to blow up civilians. That's the Biden administration. So why is it okay that when Donald Trump tries to do the racist border wall, he's racist, and when Donald Trump tries to ban refugees, he's racist, and when Donald Trump places Latin kids in cages, he's racist? But when Joe Biden does literally the exact same policies, it's cool, and Harris and Pelosi can say nothing. I think it needs this. Your decent America is the same thing as racist Trump America. So decent USA, same as racist Trump USA. Decent USA, same as racist Trump USA. If I'm wrong, why are they enacting the same racist policies? Californians were unequivocal in their condemnation of these policies. He's doing literally the same thing. Explain that to me. All right, we'll take a few comments. If they're relevant, we'll cover it. If they're not, we won't. Let's cover this. Sup, brother man? Yep, you are right. You're shooing one bird. Biden and Trump, same guy. Blind guides lead citizen dumbed down with the intent. Yeah. It's a shame we do not easily allow for migration at our border. For some, stopping their migration forces them to not comply with the way of our forefathers and creates dissonant energy in them. You know, one of the things that I always found interesting, Yeshua, is that there's this group of people called the Italians, and the Italians came without papers. In fact, so many Italians came without papers that it became a nickname. WOP. I'm not going to say it because it's a racist nickname, but it's WOP, without papers, because somebody came here. Italians had a 90% rate of not learning English within the first generation. That's a hard fact from the U.S. Census. Only 10% of the Italians who came learned English. So you're looking at second generation Italians learned English, but the first generation barely enabled. Italians also brought organized crime, so the mafia. And Italians also brought bad political ideas like anarchy. That was from there. And Italians also brought disease. And here's my point. I'm not shaming Italians. I'm saying, does anybody go, let's round up all the Italians and kick them out of America? No. So when I see, oh, well, these Mexicans and these Latinos come from another country without immigration papers, and they bring disease and crime and bad political ideas. And I go, oh, just like the Italians, right? Nobody's saying the millions of Italians here aren't real Americans. Nobody's saying let's go back in time and kick out all the Italians. Nobody's saying how disgusting and wrong it was for us to have Italians. No one. So why is it okay to criticize Latinos for coming across the border illegally, bringing with them organized crime, disease, and bad political ideas, and yet literally the Italians literally did all those same things? Anarchy was a horrible idea at the time. The American federal government considered anarchy in the early 1900s to be equivalent to terrorism today. It was an existential threat. They also brought certain diseases, cholera, whatever, with them because there was different health conditions. That's why we had to isolate them on an island before they were allowed in. They also brought organized crime, the mafia. And many of them did not learn English within the first generation, and many of them came over illegally. They are embraced by America. They are loved by America. Their story is seen as part of the American story. So why can't it be that way with Latinos when literally they have the same conditions? Why? That's a good question for everybody. I was helping my dad while working on a Capone job the day my younger sister was born. I had a girlfriend. My first girlfriend was half Italian, and her uncle was a hitman. So they were not involved in crime. It was more like a family story, but it does kind of show the ubiquity of crime in the Italian community. And yet, nobody's saying send those people back. They're bad Americans. It was bad for America to have them. I think Americans think on the overall that having all these Italians come was a good thing for America. Yeah, there were some problems, obviously. But I don't know anybody saying, boy, having all those Italians come, that was a bad idea. Never heard that in my life. So, my grandmother was, yeah, okay. All right. So, a lot of similarities. We love Italians in America. We accept them. We accept their story. It's part of the quintessential American story. I don't think anybody could talk about what is America, not talk about the Italian immigrants. So here's Latinos. It's a lot of similar things. And our languages are also very similar. Italian and Spanish are really close. So what's the difference? I don't know. I'll leave that to you. But the point is that decent USA that Biden said kind of looks the same thing as racist Trump USA. And that was the point of today's show. Biden urges restoring decency after assault on democracy. And then he enacts these racist, disgusting policies. I guess that's decency in America. Wanted you to know, because the mainstream media will never bring this up to you. Okay, we'll see you soon.